here at the front and take, shine from the legwork that was done. Troy, we had our meetings, everybody. So congratulations on the job well done. I will open up with some thoughts here in terms of where we're getting to as it relates to the images of black men in media right now. And we're on the real cusp of the digital age, which has empowered people to be responsible community journalists. There are stories that you have in your community right now that you can tell via your smartphone that can change the course and the direction of history in a millisecond. And you need to be mindful of what you're posting right now. You need to understand that when we grew up in the dark ages, BC, before cable, where we had, 3 stations. I'm a person that used to walk from Walbrook Junction to Mondawmin. I went to CCP before it became Baltimore City Community College. Okay, so I take pride in knowing that I got the same piece of paper that Barry Levinson has. So let's not forget that. So I remember, some of the great legendary broadcasters from this area. They made a mistake. It was either chopped up, laid on the floor, went to the trash, right? Never to be seen again. Oops, you're bad, nobody knows it. You make a mess up, or to keep it real, do something ratchet and put it on the internet, it's there forever. There ain't no getting away from it. Next generation of journalists. On the one hand, there's so many stories and it is so vital, particularly in our community, to tell the positive stories, to, in fact, project hope, so to speak. But then you've got, absence of resources to get them out there. And quite frankly, the business side of the game, making it very difficult to monetize the ability to tell a story. So I'll throw this up for anybody who wants to comment on it. What are the skills and how do you balance getting into the changing face of the game right now? We came in where it was ethical, it was about doing compelling, journalistically quality work. You have a lot of great work right now that isn't resonating if you look at the analytics, the likes, the hits, the stuff that's sustainable. So where do we go to strike that balance between what needs to be told and what resonates?
I don't think the rules of the game have changed that much. And I agree with you that the economics of journalism have changed. When I moved to Baltimore, it's because I got a job with Baltimore's Sun, and they're gonna pay me a salary, benefits, this, that, and the other, even a pension. And I could go out there and do stories, and no one was really so much looking at how many people read X story or Y story. Now that's changed. But I would argue that the same attributes still make good journalism. And if you tell good, compelling stories in a way that's fair and broad-minded, don't just sort of focus, so say on the negative, or necessarily on quote-unquote what we might think of as the positive, just tell things holistically. I think in that, you'll find big audience. You won't get every single story, but you'll get it enough to make it worth your while. So I know the way I approach my job, even now, it's Undefeated, where every day we get a report saying X number of people read your story. I try not to let that drive my journalism. I let good stories drive my journalism. You try to tell the good stories in the most compelling way possible. And sometimes you just miss. Sometimes people don't read them. But I'm satisfied as a journalist that I did what was right. I don't feel like you need to exploit. In a way, it's exploiting the community to sort of do things just for quote unquote for hits or what have you. So I think the rules are the same: good, compelling, complete kind of coverage. I think at the end of the day, will draw an audience.
I'm on the flip side of this, obviously, and what I think is pretty interesting. I thought about this; it just came to me. People that look like him don't work a lot at the Baltimore Sun anymore. And the crime reporters, a lot of what you see, don't look like us. So one of the big questions I get in the streets often is, how come they aren't telling this story? I can't make it. So we need young people like you guys to step up and tell the stories that need to be told from the perspective that you're in. When I worked in Anne Arundel County, and as I climbed the ladder there, I was often the only one of color in the room. And there were conversations that would come up, and I'm like, oh, time out. No. And it's a perspective. It's not necessarily of offense. It's because some people just don't know any better. That's been the big beef in Washington when it's 60-year-old white men making decisions about birth control, and there's no women in the room. So the more diversity in the room, the more opportunity opens where somebody can get that perspective of, oh, I see why we need to balance this or tell this story. And sadly, not taking anything away from the journalists who are telling the stories, some of it is just because they don't have the experience to tell the story from a different perspective. So we need young people like you from Baltimore to put the pen to paper and write those stories. I deal with some of the journalists in this room, Omar, and Barry, and Andre, and Schuyler with ABC2, and we've talked about things where they want to show the good that's going on with young people as opposed to continuously showing the bad. But it takes a perspective to understand that and get away from the hits on the website because this salacious headline is going to grab you.
Can I piggyback on that? Because in my newsroom that you all visited upstairs, I'm the only black anchor. The only one. We had a meeting in this room last week with a brand new news director, and I walked in and I was like, wow. And I know y'all say I'm color challenged anyway. but it was very shocking. You get caught in your work and you think about what you do on a daily basis, and I'm not so much concerned about that but I also, when I talk to young people like you guys, I talk about how important it is that I am in the room. I shouldn't be the only one. I shouldn't be the only one with a thought process to say, let me do a story about this event today. But if I wasn't there, it wouldn't get done. I was talking to some folks the other day about February 1st. And I told some of you all that my newscast started at 9 o'clock in the morning. So I'm coming into work February 1st, and it's another typical news day. Nothing major. Not one story about Black history. There would not have been a story about Black history. Just a simple story about this is the beginning of Black History Month. And we're on TV Hill in the middle of Baltimore, Maryland, in a city that's predominantly black. Nobody on the morning show thought about even considering a story about Black History Month. Just a general story about the mayor maybe cutting a ribbon or visiting a school or something like that. No, that didn't happen. It's very telling that it's important to talk about an ordinance in Ocean City about whether people are allowed to go topless or not. That's more important. So it's critical that we are in these spaces to add to that conversation. It's critical that newsrooms are diverse, and not just with African Americans, but there is a rainbow of people that live in this city, and their stories aren't getting told either. And we have to be mindful of that. We have to be open to hearing about it, and I can go on and on.
And we probably all had that experience in our respective positions of bringing up the Black history thing. BABJ member April Ryan, who was almost ridiculed away by the president of you invite him of, hey, Black History Month. Okay, so what are y'all gonna do? What do you think we should? And it's like, I'm not the spokesperson for Black America. It's just something we should think about collectively to do something.
Just real quick, and to Troy's point earlier, there should be more of us in the room. And to that end, we should be ready to be in the room. When I came here 9 years ago, the 5 p.m. producer was an African American male, the 6 p.m. producer was an African American female, and the 11 o'clock producer was an African American female. Now, the 2 producers when you all on tour with me, it's just me at 6 and Eliza on the weekends. We have a young man who produces the news who is an African American man. That's it. Everybody else is a white female. So they don't.
Now Robin does the morning show.
Oh yeah, Robin, yeah, right, and Robin, who does the more. Thanks, Dan. But my point is that the shows that are really getting seen and the shows of record, they don't look like us.